Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed defensive lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, use of force expert, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, CEO of Active Self-Protection, Stephanie Widener.
Download the ASP Unlimited app for all the content you love from Active Self-Protection and more with no interference from YouTube. No ads, no age gates, exclusive videos, seminars, classes, and more on iOS, Android, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, and Android TV. Hit the link in the description or download ASP Unlimited from your app store today. Guy in yellow is putting his groceries in the car. His wife is in the passenger seat, right-hand side. Now, you're gonna see a motorcycle come up here, and watch the guy in the white that's just come from the left. He's gonna kind of mosey over and get on the back of the bike while our guy in yellow is going to kind of go over towards his side after getting his groceries put away. He's gonna notice that that guy is getting on the back of the bike and he shows a gun. No kidding, he pulls a gun and shows a gun, and that makes our guy in yellow get after him. Now, our dude on the motorcycle, who I don't know if was involved or if it was like an Uber, with motos or whatever, is gonna try to get away. Dude is gonna get on the back. Our guy in yellow gets after them some more. To go read the news stories that I've linked in the description. Again, this was in Colombia, right? So in Barranquilla, Colombia, I don't think I said that earlier. And the guy in white falls off the back of the moto. He didn't make it. The other guy was shot twice too. Police say they're investigating, and now what you saw is the wife there. She got out of the car, goes all the way around and does a Colombian fire drill, since this is Colombia, and then they are going to then get out of the situation. I haven't seen any charges filed here, though I'm no expert on Colombian law. So we go into this in a lot more depth on the Active Self-Protection Extra channel. But Stephanie, as a use of force expert and an expert witness, do most people understand the law of self-defense well?
No, no. And it's a problem. It gets people jammed up all the time. So that's why it's so important to us to teach lessons like that on our other channel, Active Self-Protection Extra, where we can go in depth into those kinds of lessons.
Yeah, so hey, make sure you go over there too. We're gonna give you a good dose of it here, but the format's pretty small. So over there, much deeper dive. Steph, this is one of those weird ones that I think that there's more information that's not on video than maybe there is, because he's just kind of moseying about, getting his groceries put away, and now this dude shows up, and I don't know if that's his friend or, again, like an Uber, but it kind of looks like our guy in the yellow shirt kind of maybe saw him, but I could certainly see how somebody would look at this video and go, what the heck happened here, and why did he shoot that guy?
Yeah, I had to watch it several times to even figure it out. And I think that's a really good point. We often look at these videos of these incidents and think that that shows us everything and exactly what happened, exactly the same way as everyone in the situation perceived it. And that's just not accurate. Like in this case, it's very difficult to see that the bad guys pulled a gun. I can't hardly see it at all. But that is what happened. It just doesn't show on camera. So I think that's something important for us all to remember, that the camera doesn't tell us the whole story sometimes.
Well, remember, a surveillance video is a witness to be interrogated like any other witness. Now, it does give us a repeatable witness statement, which is really good, but it's not a complete picture. It's 2D, not 3D. There are many things that video doesn't tell us, so we got to make sure that we get all of the information. Again, the news stories say this guy who was in white, who ended up dead, he had that gun on him. It fell out of his hand when he fell off the back of the bike. Now, for the rest of this, everything here, I think there's a very important lesson about cultural context here, because two dudes on the back of a moto in Asia, in Africa, is every day. Like, this is going to be an every minute of every day. Two dudes on a moto in Central and South America is absolutely a prelude to an armed robbery and is vastly different culturally. But in any of those places, I don't care how many dudes, guy pulls a gun and you see him do it, I think a reasonable person could absolutely fear that they were at risk of death or great bodily injury. But again, in Colombia, in Barranquilla, Colombia, two dudes on the back of the moto, and I saw the one pull a gun out of his pants, I think that would be entire justification for the use of deadly force.
For sure. Even here in the United States, it'd be worth looking at. That would be very unusual, and you would want to pay attention to it. Obviously, you couldn't shoot someone for just riding on the back of a tiny motorcycle like that. But again, it's unusual here, and we should look at the norms in our own cultures to kind of decide what is normal, what is not normal, and what we should be paying more attention to. In my area, obviously we're much more spread out. So it'd be odd for someone to come very close to me at all out in public. In a bigger city, that wouldn't be unusual at all. So you have to know what's normal for your culture and what should get your attention.
This is why paying attention is so important. And again, not being paranoid, but knowing what your baseline is, knowing what the culture is where you are, and what is a prelude to an attack and what isn't a prelude to an attack in your particular cultural context. And of course, here in Colombia, two dudes on a moto, absolutely it. So do I blame this guy knowing that there was a gun, knowing that we had two dudes on a moto for getting after these guys? I don't. But again, if you don't know that, then that could totally change things. And I think this is hard for people sometimes to get their head around stuff, because that's going to look different in suburban Detroit than it is out in the outskirts of Sioux Falls where you are.
Sure. And that's why we say that context is so important. And all we can do with these videos is take a look at them and come up with some generalizations that you can then recontextualize to your own situation. But it's really difficult to speak to a single particular situation with just the video, because we're missing so much information, including that cultural context. So it's never as cut and dried as people think it is. And I think if that's one lesson I could get people to get, that it's not as easy to determine what's going on as people think it is, that's an important lesson to consider.
I also think here there are some additional lessons for us to consider. That thankfully he was paying enough attention to see that coming before it was on top of him and they had a gun screwed into the side of his ear. Number two, he was carrying his firearm. Now, I don't know the carry laws in Colombia. In the United States, almost everywhere, well, everywhere you can ostensibly get a permit to carry. Most of the states in the US now, it's constitutional carry. You don't need a permit to carry a firearm concealed on your person if you're not a prohibited possessor. And I recommend you do. It's one of those things where, if you don't need it, fine. It doesn't do you really any harm. You just got to carry it around. But if you do need it, you need it right now, and it's the only thing that's going to do. Now, he gets after these guys, starts getting on them. We are going to talk about some of the technique here, okay? Because sometimes fortuitous outcomes, they reinforce bad behavior. And one of the bad behaviors we see here is the one-handed shooting kind of up over the top. Because if you look, he's not looking down the sights of the gun there. He's got that gun way up over the top like this, where he's just kind of shooting in their general direction, and his backstop doesn't look great there. One of the reasons that we always say, hey, put two hands on the gun is you're much more likely than to use those bumpy things on the top, or maybe even a pistol-mounted optic. But two hands on the gun, probably a good idea here, Steph.
Yeah, I mean, I want to do the best I can to get hits exactly where they need to go. It's going to be difficult enough to live with the outcome. If you injure someone innocent in your backstop, that's going to be a difficult outcome to live with. So you want to minimize that as much as possible. Two hands on the gun and using the bumpy things to know where the bullets are going to go, it would be really important. There are a lot of people, lots of cars. It's our responsibility as responsible gun owners to ensure that our bullets wind up exactly where they were intended to go. And your life isn't more valuable than the innocent people in your backstop. So keep that in mind. You need to protect them as well.
Yep, and wisdom from Stephanie Widener, use the bumpy things to tell where the bullet's gonna go. That's technical phraseology as a firearms instructor there, friends.
We might have to change that to be like the flashy red light or something, but the flashy green circle, but I like the bumpy things.
Yeah, you use the blinky dot to tell you where the bullets go. All right, fine. They get off. Now, they start going. Okay, he starts winning, but I want you to notice there at the very second before we stopped it, they sent bullets back his way, or at least pointed the gun at him, and that's why he ducked down so fast. I do think, thinking just a moment here about use of the car as cover and concealment. Concealment, for the most part, works as well as cover. We see it work again and again in real gunfights. But you know, Steph, I think the challenge here is we know his wife is inside that car. And I mean, assuming that they are happily married, putting your significant other and loved one between you and the bad guys is not good marriage advice.
Yeah, definitely not good marriage advice, not good tactical advice. Obviously, it's difficult to think in the moment, so you want to think of these things ahead of time. If you're the one in the gunfight, you're going to want to draw that gunfire away from your loved ones as much as possible. So kind of hiding behind her. I'm sure he's assuming she's safe in the car, because we kind of look at it that way too, just because she's hidden in the car, that's going to protect her, even though that's just concealment as well. But again, there's a multitude of cars there that he could have used to achieve this same level of, quote unquote protection that would have drawn away from his wife. And I think that's important to think about. So you're not doing this just as a default in the moment.
Yeah, using that cover and learning what parts of the car are covered. Because, okay, engine block, steel wheels, things like that. But even if he'd have gone around the other side, using the back of the car as concealment, again, concealment works as well as cover 99.9% of the time. Thankfully, most bad guys can't shoot. Couldn't hit their butt with both hands if you drew them a map. Now, eventually here, they're going to heck off and the one guy's going to fall off the bike. All right, fine, whatever. Then he is going to get out of there and they're going to get in the car. So she kind of does a Colombian fire drill here, gets out the driver's side door, comes back around, gets in the passenger door, and they leave. And I don't have a problem with that, especially if they believe that there's still potential for deadly threats around here. Notice that his buddy left him there to die. That's kind of interesting. The two things that I would say here, it's okay to leave. If you feel like you have to for your safety, just make sure that you win the fight to call emergency services 911. And the second thing here is all these bystanders may have seen something radically differently or felt like they saw something radically differently of just some guy shooting at a couple dudes on a moto. So recognizing that, hey, you don't necessarily know what's going on when you're the third party, I think is important here too.
Yeah, have that priority to get yourself and your loved ones to safety. Don't call anyone else before you call 911. That's important. You need to not talk to anyone after an incident like this happens, except for your lawyer. And but yeah, get to safety and call as soon as you can. And that doesn't mean after you've gotten home, taken a shower, had a cigarette, and had some time to relax. Call as soon as you get, a mile down the road, pull over, make that call. And that way you can be the first one reporting the story.
Yes, and I would recommend, if you can, again, you and your spouse, and you were the one who was in the gunfight, have your spouse call 911. Have them be the one, because what they say is not nearly as injurious to your case potentially as what you say. So remember, it can be used against you in a court of law. She could be wrong about what she saw or those things. Say as little as possible. Hey, there's been a shooting. This is where it was. We need help. Get some help here. We're going to drive to this location. And then as soon as you hang up that call, you need to be on the phone with your attorney. Now, we obviously recommend Firearms Legal Protection. So you'd call the 800 number, get them their machinations en route so that your attorney is in the route so that you can, again, when you show back up to the crime scene and it was a crime against you, it's why you use deadly force. You invoke your right to silence, demand to speak to your attorney so that you don't say stupid things that end up getting you hemmed up in court later. These are important bits. This was a difficult one. This was interesting stuff here because, again, the video didn't show us every bit of what happened here, but I think understanding all the context shows that this guy actually covered his ass.